why I believe we do in-hand work with our horses. And the process that has worked for me has worked for my students and worked for hundreds of horses that have come my way. My name is Chris Adderson. I'm the founder of Harmony for the Horse. So my perspective comes from being a professional dancer for many years, a movement researcher, always looking for explanations, reasons why, and how movement comes through our bodies, and then how movement comes through our horses' bodies. In university, one of my projects was a research project on the walkover. So the walkover is when you go on your hands and your legs go over top and they walk over, right? And you arch over and you stand up on your legs and you come back up. I had still photos of me doing the walkover. These photos that were put in a sequence on a cardboard, the different stages and phases of the walkover. My project was to explore eccentric contractions, concentric contractions, how impact was being absorbed when you landed on the one foot, follow through. And then I also delved deep into the meaning of contact and how to make contact. How do two bodies, living bodies, move together in harmony? How does that actually happen? Why we do in-hand work, the purpose is to connect our spine to our horse's spine. It's to start that connection. Once we figured out how to do that connection, how we can connect our spine to our horse's spine, we can use that to evaluate function. Evaluate functional movement, evaluate dysfunctional movement perhaps. We can use that connection to feel where our horses are at. We can use the connection to then move together. And it's this very soft connection that's resilient but very positive and sticky that makes it all so beautiful. And an example, all great, elegant dancers like the Viennese waltz have some kind of contact. It's the contact that makes the connection beautiful, the quality of the contact. So imagine if you were going to get up and dance with a dance partner on a ballroom dance floor, and this dance partner was new to you. So you didn't know this person at all. This person just came up and asked you to dance. And so you got up and you enjoyed getting into the dance with this person. What would you do first? When you went to take contact with the person and go into the dance, what do you do first? This is what I would do first. I would feel for the dancer's spine. When I would take contact with that other person, I would feel for their spine. I don't want to feel for what the hand is doing or what their leg is doing or what their foot might be doing or where their head is looking or where their focus is looking. I would feel for their spine. That's what's going to tell me how to follow. If the dancer then responds by connecting to my spine, then instantly we would know each other. We would know a lot about each other in that instant. But if the dancer, the other dancer, does not connect to my spine, then I know that I'm going to have to work extremely hard. It's going to be extremely difficult for me to follow that person who I don't know how they move. I don't know where they're going to move. I'm going to have to use my visual sense. I'm going to have to look at where they're focusing. That may tell me something. And I'm going to have to maybe look at where their body might be going next, which has a delayed response, right? I'm not going to be instant with them. I'm going to have to maybe look and see what this hand gesture that they're giving me, what it might mean. That's because if they're not connected to their spine, their movement is going to be extraneous. It's going to be coming from their limbs. It's going to be, oh, this hand flick might mean do a turn. But by the time I look and I see the hand flick and my body takes it in, and then I'm like way behind on the turn, and they've already asked me to do the turn. And compare directly to us riding horses. It would be confusing for me. I would have to probably guess, and I would have to look for clues. Whereas the dancer who is connecting to my spine, that's where I can feel. I could even close my eyes. I could even gaze over my partner's shoulder, not even have any eye contact with the person, because I could feel what that person's spine is doing, what the intention behind that person's spine is. And this is what we want to do with our horses. We want to know the direction that our horses are going in. We want to know the direction that we are going in. And I would know that with my dance partner, because I would be grounded to the earth, and I would feel from the floor up through his legs, in his spine. I would know exactly where he was going. In other words, I would be able to very clearly feel the nuances of my partner. No big gestures. I would know the speed that he's going at. I would know the cadence. I would know the lift. I would know the breath of my partner. And I could actually feel the movement coming through. I could feel the energy of my partner. Now, on the other hand, you know what else I would know about my partner? I would know my partner's habits. I would know whether the movement is functional or dysfunctional. And so when I left, the dance is finished, and when I would leave my dance partner, I perhaps might say to myself, oh, okay, that person's body was torqued always in one direction. I can feel that. Always it was torqued this way, which made it very difficult for me to then accomplish what I was trying to do. I couldn't do my turn while he was standing still, because my dance partner had already torqued my body in this way before we even started into the turn that I had to do. So I must have to compensate in such and such a way in order to get the job accomplished, in order to get that turn accomplished. That's all right, because we all have compensations in our bodies. We're not going to be perfect, and we don't expect perfection. But I can only know these compensations within my body in any kind of detail at all if my body is functional for my body to the best of my capabilities. If I am dealing with extreme dysfunctions and I haven't sorted out what is true functional movement for my body with whatever it comes with, then we're both going to be, with that dysfunctional dance partner, going down the wrong path. So as you can see, it's not a mechanical connection. And in the horse world, we are taught a mechanical connection where you do something with your body and you expect a response, right? Okay, I'm going to put my inside leg on and my outside rein. I expect a response. What does that mean, right? What if I don't get the response I'm looking for? What next? In my example of the dancer, that basically is doing in-hand work by walking beside my horse. I am going to have my connection to my spine, and then I'm going to put maybe a hand on my horse's shoulder. Maybe I will have my rib cage touching my horse right in the heart girth area. And then from there, I can feel what's happening within my horse's spine. And this takes practice. I mean, if you haven't been used to doing this or going this deep into the kinesthetic awareness, it's going to take some practice to figure out how to do it. But that's what we do in our program. That's what we teach you how to do. We teach you to come away from that mechanical approach that I just described, and rather to go deep into what we all have within inside us. It's not that you can't do it or nobody can do it. And we know it, but we've forgotten. And that's how to move from our spines. So how we do it in our program, we find out how our spines are moving. We come into tune with that and into touch with that first. Because if we don't have that first, then we won't be able to feel our horse's spines as clearly as we could. We have contact. We have good quality contact because, like the dancer, We're moving from our spines. We're grounded. We know where our spines are. We're not doing extraneous things with our arms and our hands and our feet that doesn't make any sense. And then we can very clearly focus on what we're doing. I was teaching a rider in our program the other day, and she said, aren't we going somewhere? Are we not following our focus? At the beginning, you're not going anywhere. It becomes a dance of awareness, of kinesthetic awareness, and delving deep into the feeling. So you won't go anywhere necessarily. What you're doing is connecting with your horse. We're using that connection that I talked about, connecting, and then evaluating, taking in information, taking the feedback from our horse's body, and then making decisions and choices on where to go next. And the horse's body will lead you by what you feel, by what you take into your body is how you feel your horse's spine. What happens if you do use like the aids, the definition of the aids, the application of the aids, the obedience to the aids? And what happens if you don't get a response that you're asking? What happens then? More aids, right? Your solution is more aids. Your solution is more pressure. Your solution is maybe more force. That's controlling. That's not guiding. We want to be the guide for our horse. And you know what? We are super lucky to work with horses because they are so open. They're much easier than working with a human dance partner. I know. New way, it's a way that we know. It's a primal way. It's an organic way. It's not a way that's been conjured up by thinking from the mechanical perspective. It's from the perspective of feeling, of moving, which is what riding is all about, right? That's the game of riding, is how do two bodies move together in harmony and look amazing and be beautiful and have quality contact. It may be a new perspective for a lot of people, but it's not new to you as a human being. It's inside of you. You just have to know how to get it out. It's easier to work with horses and do this than it is to work with people. Really, I know. I've done both, and working with people can be incredibly difficult and different. And the reason for that is because horses have an innate ability or a desire to follow or to mirror our movement. They do it naturally within a herd. They have to, because if they want to move together in a herd, they have to be so aware of where all the other bodies are. Have you ever seen a herd get spooked and all of a sudden take off? And how magical it is that none of them bumps into each other? They know where each hoof is, and they can see and adapt and adjust themselves to each other's bodies. So they move and become one as a unit as they're spooking. Horses particularly have these mirror neurons, they're called, which are specialized nerve cells that prepare the motor neurons to then talk to the muscles and the fascia and all the soft tissue and tell our bodies basically what to do. And not only can they read our movements, but they can also match our movements, which is what that herd is doing, right? They can read quickly, instantly, and then they match so that they can follow along and be in harmony and not be bumping and running into each other. Horses can read our movements and they can match our movements. We're going to use that to help ourselves to train our horses in hand. And this is why we do in hand. For me, this is why we do in hand. We're going to teach ourselves to come away from the mechanical approach and rather go deep into what we all have. And again, I'm not looking for perfection, right? But rather, what I'm looking for is the correct use of a person's body in movement, including their compensations, which we all have. And that doesn't mean that I don't help my students to find better ways of moving, to find more functional ways of moving, making suggestions how that they can be more comfortable in their movement and be more functional. And how we do it is we use fun. We use fun, non-habitual movements to help us to guide our bodies to find this true way of moving. And what we do is we also address traumas and those compensations within our bodies that are stored there physically, not only in our conscious and subconscious minds, but stored somewhere in our bodies. We address that. And this is just from living. We all have it, but they can be very toxic and very hard to remove on your own, if not completely impossible to remove on your own. Here we have a framework, okay? We have a framework from which to work within that has the most clarity for the rider's body. And with that clarity, that's when we can feel. That's when we can have intention. That's when we can take our energy and our intention and put it into feeling our horses and then feeling back what we're getting. And this only can happen from experiencing it. I can't tell you with words how to do that, but I can teach you how to do it through experiences that I can give you. And this way, the rider can be very efficient with the application of the energy, so it's fair, right? And it's clear, and it's very subtle, just like we talked about those two dance partners that were very subtle in their communication because they're connecting each other's spines, and it's clear. The movement is so clear, you won't make a mistake. Once you have experienced this way of doing in hand, you won't go back. Because not only does it help you physically, but it helps the bond. It helps you to have a better relationship with your horse because it speaks to the horses. It speaks to the way they like to function. It's not only about awareness, and it's not only about coordination. It's about having the comprehension of this. Having the comprehension of how movement moves through your body because you've connected to your spine, and then how movement comes through your horse's body, and then you can problem solve along the way, right? Because there's going to be problems. It's going to come, it's going to go. It's always in transition. It's never stuck. It's not static. It's not a hold position. It's always changing. And it's not mechanical at all, but rather it's organic. It's coming from the source of all movement, which is our spine. Yes, we do use our hands at times for refinement. I'm not saying we don't. And when you understand that we're moving from our spine first and get that working, then we can add hand movements on top of it. And this is also very intriguing and riveting, right back to our dance partner. If you've seen two people in contact doing a Viennese waltz, it's intriguing, isn't it? And it's riveting. It's not a bunch of extraneous movement. They're moving in harmony, two bodies moving together, which is what we want for our horse. Going maybe at the beginning, nowhere in particular, but with incredible concentration of the feeling of each body and what each body is, how each body is moving and what it's doing. And so this is why in our program we use this framework and we use this approach that I just briefly described to you, because it's not so easy for riders or people to do this when we focus the large majority of our day on our computers, perhaps, or on dexterity with our hands, right? Cooking or cleaning or typing, these types of things. Those types of skills are easy for people because they're reviewed time and time again in every single day. But for the majority of adults in their life, it's difficult to clue into this type of kinesthetic awareness that I'm talking about. So my mission here is to have excellent horsemanship and riding and in-hand work available to everyone. So if this makes sense to you, if this is something you want to explore, click the like button or the love heart or subscribe to my channel. That way we can get the algorithm on our side and it'll show more people this video so we can get this information out. That would be greatly appreciated if you could do that for me and help me with my mission to get horsemanship and riding and in-hand work out to lots and lots of riders so their horses can benefit and they can benefit. So why we do in-hand with our horses is to connect our spine to our horse's spine. And from there, the world is open to us. The options, we can do anything, just like our dance partners that I told you about. And we can chat about other topics that are super interesting and probably a different new perspective that you haven't heard before. So thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next time.